Hello friends, today's topic is about what materials should we choose for our watercolors to come out perfectly. Let's get started. These are the three main things we have to see when choosing the right watercolor paper. Whether it's hot pressed or cold pressed, whether it is 100% cotton or not, and the thickness of the paper should be 300 GSM. Also in the video I'll tell you which watercolors to choose and in which range. I started with a Brewster hot pressed 25% cotton paper. Because it's 25% cotton, the water gets absorbed really quickly. So we have to be really fast when doing the painting. If you're a beginner and if you're doing only very easy and quick painting, then it's okay. But if you're trying some complex painting which involves multiple layers of water, then it is really difficult if you're a beginner. But that is not the case with cold pressed or handmade paper. For instance, this is a handmade paper from Coneco. Here, if you see, it is not as smooth as a hot pressed paper. As the name suggests, hot pressed is a smooth surfaced paper. This is having so many ridges. This holds water really nicely, but the problem is that the surface is not very plain. If you see this is a watercolor book paper from watercolor book, and this is a cold pressed paper, but this is 100% cotton and cold pressed paper. Since it is 100% cotton, it holds water really well, and because it is cold pressed, it is having the a little smoother ridges when compared to the handmade paper, but it is not as flat and smooth as the hot pressed paper. I tried using both these papers, and I created some artwork. But the problem with these papers is that if you can see the petals, you can see the pattern below. It is as if the petals are having these patterns. But if you see the cold pressed paper, it's okay. I'm not able to see in the darker shade. But again, if we go for a lighter shaded petals at the top, you can still see that pattern. So I'm not happy with this painting which is done on both the papers. As you can see, these are the paintings which are done from a hot pressed paper, but which is 100% cotton hot pressed paper. I'll show you that in a short time. And this is the painting. For this particular painting, I have used a lot of water and few layers, maybe three or four layers of painting. And this one is done from a Brewster paper, which is only 25% cotton, but it holds the water really well. Here comes my favorite watercolor paper. This is Menorah, which is 100% cotton and cold pressed paper, and it is having 300 GSM thickness. This comes in a average range. The 7 sheets of A3 size cost me around 1000 rupees. You may think 1000 rupees is little costlier, but actually when compared to the great quality papers which are available in the market, this is a really cost effective paper. It's not just the rate, but you can see that the results are actually amazing when compared to the already previous papers which I showed. As you can see, this is the painting which I did from this particular paper. Since it's a cold pressed paper and it is 100% cotton, it is holding the water really well for a long time. Because it is wet, I'm able to go over and over again with multiple colors of paint, and I'm able to achieve the particular results. Even this have added lot of layers of paint, and because the layer remains wet for a long time, I am able to get that smooth finish, and I am able to seamless finish I am able to get with this particular paper. And this is one of the initial first paintings that I have done. You can see how the finish is, and how naturally the thing looks because of the smooth blend which this paper creates. Here comes the most famous paper for the watercolor paper, the Arches watercolor paper. This is the best watercolor paper which is ever available in the market. All the great artists use this watercolor paper for their work, but this comes in the costlier end. This sheet cost me around 3000 bucks, and it is available in Amazon with a variety. Next comes the watercolors. The watercolor which I am widely using is the Brewster pan set of 42 shades. This comes in a pocket friendly pack, which is really portable. and it comes in 42 beautiful shades. As you can see, these are the shades. Almost all possible varieties what you want is available in these 42 shades. It also comes with a squeezy pen where we can fill in water, and you can keep using this for watercoloring. And whenever you use a watercolor, you should have always do a patch test so that you can actually understand what are the shades you're having with you. What you see in the pen set is completely different from what you see on a paper. So I always run a patch test whenever I use a new set of watercolors. As you can see, this has so many varieties and ranges of greens and blues, and it gives you all possible shades. For example, this particular rose I drew from this Brewster set. This particular rose has 6 or 7 shades in them, but if you can see, you cannot make out all of those. You can only see a full a mass of rose. And also, if you see the color which we have closest to the shade I wanted from my photograph is the C13, which was available there. It is not the same color as this one, but then we can always derive the shade we want from the watercolors which are close to it. Also, one of my favorite watercolors is a transparent photocolors from Camel. These are not exactly watercolors, but these are having a transparent nature. Because of that, we can use it as a watercolor. It comes in 12 different shades, and the shades are really vibrant and bright. So that we can really make use of them as watercolors. Even this rose I made from this tube only. As I always, I do a patch test, and on the right side, these are the 12 different shades we get from this camel photo colors, and they are really bright and vibrant colors. One advantage is that you can get a uniform shade or texture of this because it's already a liquid color, and when you mix in water, it just blends in beautifully. This painting I did from this photo colors, and the background, I just love the background because it is we cannot make out this background is done from a watercolor because of this uniformity, and it is in liquid medium. I enjoy using this watercolor. And the next one I have is the Camel artistic range watercolor. Now, I used to use this before. Now I have given this to my child so you can see the condition. This one is also a very good watercolor because it's an artist range, and on the left hand side you can see the patch test. These are all the basic colors which you may need to do a watercolor. This particular cat painting I did with the camel set, and I'm happy with the cat, but not with the background because it's a hot pressed paper. Since it requires a lot of water to be put in, it did not settle down as beautifully as required. One more watercolor set is the tube set which I have from Camlin. It is again an artistic range, and it is really good. This also has all the almost the same kind of the same colors which I had from the pan set, and this is really good. I have the same opinion of this one. Always when it comes to a tube set or pan set, uh, when the pan set is a artistic range, you don't have much of a difference. But when the pan set is of a student's range, what's the problem is when you have to really nicely mix the watercolor for a long period. Long period means it's a really long period. For really 2 minutes, you have to mix the color with the water so that the grains gets dissolved. If not, when the paint dries out, you can see a powdery finish on the paper. It's like getting salt deposited on the paper. So, but when it comes to a nice range like a Brustro or any other good pan set, the paint will even if it's dry, if you see even Camlin, the paint is dry at the top, but you cannot see any powdery finish. You can see only the paint. So whenever it is an artistic range, there is not much of a difference between pan set and tube set. But when it comes to pan set, you can use whatever is required. But when in tube set, we tend to take more paint and leave it as it is, and there'll be a lot of wastage. So other than that, in an artistic range, there is not much different. But if you're going in for a student range, you always go in for a tube set, not for a pan set. And the final thing is about the brushes. The most widely used brush is my Brustro round brushes. They come in a complete set for 1000 rupees. It's available in Amazon, and they are only in four different sizes: 2, 4, 6, and 8. The thing with this round brush is that this particular round brush is that it has a mop brush and the tip will be pointy. If you put it in water, the tip will be pointy. As you can see from this large brush, I have not used it yet. It is a full round brush with a lot of bristles. I think this is a goat hair natural bristle, and when you put it in water, it will be pointy. So that is the most important requirement we need for a watercolor. Now I'm using this size 0 brush, and I'm just trying to paint. The most important advantage of this brush is since it is having a very bulky size with more bristles, it can hold a lot of water. You can use it for fine detailing as well as for painting large areas. So if you can see, I'm able to draw a fine line, thin line as well, and also I'm able to put on pressure to cover up a large area. And also the paint which we take in the brush will not be over easily. We can go over and over till we complete one full painting, whereas when you go for other brushes like the synthetic brushes, synthetic round brushes, they are relatively not bulky, and the amount of paint that could be loaded in the brush is really less. If you see, I have just done this entire row, and even at the end, see, there is so much paint on the brush, so you can really go over and over. And you can also do fine lines detailing, and also you can do large areas. That is really one of the advantages of this brush. So but when it comes to painting this nook and corner of a painting, and very very fine details, it is always better to go for synthetic brushes, because they are not bulky, and you do not accidentally drop in more paint, or you do not accidentally touch the other areas, because there are only so much bristles. You cannot make that mistake. Now let me show you the size 2 brush in the series. It's the next size, and I'll just show you how to draw a petal. We are able to cover a broad area, as well as we'll be able to do some fine line details. I'm able to draw some fine lines with the same brush, with the same amount of paint loaded. Now you can take in another bright color, and you can drop in. Again, as you see, this is a hot pressed paper. Because of that, the paint is already dried in the top part of the petal. So whatever paint we add in the bottom, if it will when it reaches the edges, it will form some hard edges. When it comes to watercolors, wherever the water is, the paint flows there. So if you see, there is already some hard edges in between this light shade and a darker shade. So when it dries, you can see a definite border on it. Can you see? You can see a definite border, like you have drawn with a pencil, or there is a straight line that is called a hard edge. But when the first shade is already wet, see, now I'm applying one shade, and this is wet. On a wet shade, I'm adding one more color. So what happens is that it just blends smoothly. It is a so when this entire painting dries out, you will not be able to see any particular border. It is a seamless merge, and and it dries out seamlessly. So that is one of the disadvantages of using a hot pressed paper. We have to be really quick. These are the detailed brushes, or the synthetic brushes I mentioned for using detailed work. This I got from a nearby store. You can get any decent round synthetic brushes of multiple sizes, This one I use for all my detail works or any small petals, or sometimes I use for leaves. And I also, whenever I need to do some small work, I use this. We can use this for large work as well, but as I mentioned, when it is as a large work, you have to keep reloading the brush with the paint every now and then. So when you have to cover a large area, go with the other kind of brush, which is mop as well as the fine edge. That's it. We have come to the end of this video. Hope it was useful to you. Make good choices and enjoy watercoloring. I'll meet you in another video. Thank you.